Hello from Slovenia and Serbia. Today here with you, founders of the OriginTrail ecosystem. Branimir calling in from Serbia, Belgrade, and Tomasz and myself calling from Ljubljana. Yeah, today we're gonna have to deal with one of the less positive topics in the light of course, some very good results that we have achieved together in the last time. And of course, starting off with the recognition of the KuCoin hack that happened on Saturday morning, and actually in some countries, I believe even Friday evening. So that's an event that we were all very much it got us appalled, and it's again indicative that the entire crypto ecosystem, crypto community at large, is yet to reach the levels of maturity where things like that would never happen. Hacks have been happening so far and will most probably happen in the future. And with this particular KuCoin hack, our community has lost a tremendous share of tokens. I think this is something that we need to point out. There are around 10% of the entire, sorry, not the entire emission, but the circulating emission supply, which is now in the hands of a malicious hacker. And although we have recognized that KuCoin has undertaken all the measures very swiftly, very quickly, and we have also gotten into communication with the KuCoin team in order to assess the overall damage, the overall potential of the damage to be created across different ecosystems. There are still some things to be resolved in order for all of us to continue on developing the ecosystem and continue on bringing in some very good stuff that is definitely happening every day. As a matter of fact, I would like to congratulate our team today, which was successful at the Blockist competition and has now entered the commercialization stage. So a lot of positive things are happening, but we need to recognize that this KuCoin hack is something very negative that we need to deal with ASAP. Now, before we go into how we are going to make this ecosystem even more resilient, and what are the short-term and the more longer-term responses to what has transpired with KuCoin, it is important to reiterate the fundamentals upon which the OriginTrail ecosystem is built. OriginTrail ecosystem, actually OriginTrail, as stated in the white paper, is not a company, but rather an ecosystem, which means that Trace Labs, we as the founders, are just one entity or entities that are contributing to the overall positive development of the ecosystem. The ecosystem is based on 3 core values. First of the core values is, of course, neutrality. Neutrality means that the open source software that is being in development since 2017 essentially is not belonging to anyone. It's free to use. It can be reproduced. Essentially, it can be taken for some other purposes. But at the same time, neutrality also means that we as founders and also other stakeholders that have joined the ecosystem should hone this ability of the neutral OriginTrail protocol to be utilized by any company. And OriginTrail essentially is a decentralized technology, and decentralized for the purposes of solving problems in supply chains and solving problems of the future data economies. And neutrality is something that is actually catalyzing the adoption, a very important element here. Going forward, inclusivity. Inclusivity, highly important value that is being pursued through the Trace Alliance organization, which is now becoming an entity with a current standing membership of over 150 different companies, even developers. And the Trace Alliance is now becoming an entity that also is very much involved in the governance of the future roadmap of the OriginTrail technology, which also includes the Trace token, which is a utility token. It has a lot of superpowers, if I may say that as a bottom line. And why superpowers? We have seen that a lot of companies have started adopting the OriginTrail technology from major organizations such as British Standards Institution, along with its network partners, the biggest retailers in the US. Governments are using OriginTrail, or at least touching OriginTrail, in order to determine provenance of goods, to determine the veracity of certain claims. So overall, OriginTrail is already being used in several sectors. So this also brings us to the kind of the final third value that we pursue, which is usability. So again, OriginTrail is pursuing three core values since its offset: neutrality, inclusivity, and usability. And why are we saying this right now? Going back into what we are to do with respect to this kind of crisis and also future crises that will occur for sure in the future. We all need to get ready for the waves. The main question that we need to ask ourselves before we suggest or before we pursue any solution is, are we being compliant with all those three core values? And taking into account those three values, neutrality, inclusivity, and usability, we have recognized that at least one of the proposed solutions, which is now being put on the table by some stakeholders, which is they have complete right to recommend that, is a token swap for the trace in order to kind of freeze or neutralize the hackers' funds. This is something that we as the founders and we as a kind of the core developer of the OriginTrail ecosystem are neither willing nor able to do, because OriginTrail and Trace utility token, which is underpinning essentially the future data economy, decentralized knowledge graph, it's a living tissue. Many of you guys are already involved in running nodes. Many of you guys are already involved in also holding a token, and doing any kind of swap would not only go against the core value, core principle of neutrality, decentralization, inclusivity, even usability, but it also might not create some very positive impacts for many kind of good participants in our ecosystem. Now, this is something that we wanted to establish and clarify, because there were many kind of rumors, many kind of requests, and building upon that, we need to now look into the future, what we are doing not only to strengthen and further improve the resiliency of the OriginTrail ecosystem, and looking back at the past successes, OriginTrail has never been as strong as it is today. Even after this hack, OriginTrail is getting stronger by every day. We, however, need to recognize the things that have to be done following this unpleasant situation, that OriginTrail will become even stronger. And we would like to touch upon at least two things here. One of them more technical, another one more related to what has transpired with the utility token being on the markets, and right now markets are somewhat impeded, and our kind of bias towards repositioning certain strategic points into our agenda. Perhaps going into gas fees and discover how we are improving the things.
Yeah, I think the one thing not to forget at this point is we were, like Giga said, surprised to see these events transpire, and we're saddened by it as well. So that's why the communication with KuCoin team, for as far as being able to get some additional information that we would be able to relay towards interested community and stakeholders within OriginTrail ecosystem took place. And so from this point, we can say that the communication so far has indicated that they are working towards being able to open up the deposits and withdrawals on the KuCoin market. In terms of the exact timeline, it's not something that anything official that we would be able to disclose or speak more to than they have already. But we also didn't receive any signals that would go against what they were communicating publicly as well, in terms of being committed to repay or reach or kind of put the previous position before the hack in order again with all of their users. So at this point, we see kind of we would expect that KuCoin still holds very much to all these claims that they were made, and that anyone that was indeed utilizing the KuCoin exchange with Trace token would be fairly treated in the post-incident time. So this is something that it's worth saying as well, that kind of this is as much also that we were able to come across in communicating with the KuCoin team, which by all means they were responsive also to kind of reach out to us as well. Yeah, and then not to go again through the core pillars. I think Giga mentioned it very nicely, and kind of it's, you know, there are certain simplifications that are running around a lot of different conversations as to how things could be handled or should be, or there's, you know, everyone has kind of different opinions. So that's why reverting to the core values is something that we see to be a very important, and also recognizing that OriginTrail as a technology has matured as an ecosystem. We've come much further than maybe some of the others have, and all of this needs to be taken into consideration when maybe something that should on a first glance seem like a very kind of exciting option to quickly remedy a certain situation. When we look at it from a perspective of the core values, from a perspective of the utility of the asset that has been created with the OriginTrail decentralized network and all the use cases that are running on it, it's quickly become apparent as to what the right course of action should be, even though on the first kind of glance, again, it might seem a little bit more challenging to pursue it. But it is the only way that we are able to build further from what we have created so far, rather than starting from scratch. Because if we abandon the core values, if we abandon the work that's been done so far, we are literally taking a very, very big step backwards, which we don't see that OriginTrail as an ecosystem would really in any way benefit from something like that. Yeah, so I think that's the core premise. That being said, some things are off the table in terms of possible actions. A lot of stuff is really there for us to kind of be excited about, and can really push the resiliency of the entire ecosystem going forward. So that yeah, like, you know, it's not just these type of events, but also other type of events that would present different kind of like a stress test situation for either technology or the ecosystem as a whole, would be less impactful on the future success of the entire ecosystem. So Giga already mentioned two, which we would touch upon today. One is really that has already been kicked off, and this is the multi-chain development, which Branimir is going to also share some more details around that. And then the second one, like Giga mentioned, is really tied more as to kind of just recognizing the current situation in terms of the also liquidity of the asset, in terms of how that can be approached to ensure the adoption also in the future isn't hurdled by lack of it. So yeah, I think at this point I'll wrap it up. And Brana, if you want to take over for just the resiliency from the multi-chain aspect.
Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't want to go too much back into the principles, but it really fits in to just mention the way also OriginTrail is being built from the start, is that it has been built with blockchain agnosticism at its core. So currently it operates on Ethereum mainnet, and for a very specific reason, the reason of that being the technology being using the blockchain that's one of the most resilient blockchains today with, and you can go and debate a lot of that, but essentially it's very easy to see why Ethereum has become the strongest chains, especially in terms of proof of work, which is one of a very sort of easy and key measures to pick. And essentially, in that sense, blockchain in the consensus layer of OriginTrail is there to perform several functions. I wouldn't go too deep into these functions, but these functions can be performed by multiple chains. And that has been the idea from get-go. And this conforms completely to the principle of neutrality. So the idea there being that the ecosystem is not tied to one specific technology. And that's not only in the blockchain or consensus layer, rather that conforms also every time as key developers when we need to make, as core developers when we need to make key decisions, such as what type of standard is going to be used, what type of database is going to be used, or any single other key technical decision in order to avoid vendor lock-in in that traditional sense, as well as in the sense of blockchain. So that's why one of the key things that has been going on over the last couple of weeks is actually kickstarting the working groups that are actually working on this through two initiatives within the Trace Alliance. Trace Alliance, actually, just to quickly explain, has working groups that are being established on specific topics. One of these topics is decentralization and tokenomics. And the working group has its own initiatives. These initiatives have some sort of life cycle, so they last for a certain period of time, measured in months or years. And for each initiative, there's a task force assigned, a group of people that are going to work on specifying the goals and the means on how this initiative is going to be put forward and finally implemented into the ecosystem or technology. And in that sense, there's currently two initiatives running. One is the Polkadot initiative. That's where we are working together with the Parity team, one being one of the best teams actually coming out of the Ethereum ecosystem, formerly bootstrapping Polkadot as the network, literally as we speak. And we're actually very excited to be able to work with them because we are working on a solution that is able to bring OriginTrail decentralized knowledge graph towards a Polkadot implementation. In terms of specifics of this implementation, the working group initiative or the task force is actually going to be publishing more information in the coming weeks. The other initiative called Starfleet is also something that is kicking off and which intends to implement the first dual chain solution within the OriginTrail decentralized network, then expanding to a tri-chain implementation with Polkadot and potentially multiple chains in the future as well. Why is this important? Well, apart from building the technology according to the neutrality principle, it's also important to offer the choice. That's one of the things that that neutrality essentially means in terms of technology. That's tied to any single important standard or a framework coming up, such as the self-sovereign identity framework, which is all about you being able to choose what you do with your data. In that sense, what we as the builders of OriginTrail technology want to do is enable node runners, be that companies or just node holders who are not using the nodes in the sense of a company, that they can actually choose what type of consensus layer they would like to be utilizing. Having that said, that means that the ultimate intention is to have OriginTrail decentralized knowledge graph work with all these chains simultaneously. This will offer one key benefit, which is really to be able to choose not only a chain of preference in terms of features or security, but also in terms of price. So having that said, that makes the technology much more resilient to shifts in other ecosystems, such as the one we've seen with gas prices on Ethereum over the last couple of weeks and months, and which is probably not that bad of a thing for Ethereum. But if we have, if you look from an enterprise perspective, a large shift in terms of in terms of actual implementation and cost, that can actually be sort of detrimental. On that sense, on that side, there's, apart from having the implementation in a multi-chain environment, there's another initiative that will actually be publishing more details on, that I sort of hinted on Twitter recently, which is actually an improved pricing module for the nodes. They're actually going to take a lot of what I already said into account, but also some additional abilities on how the nodes can learn and communicate in terms of the market for the ODN services together in a better way. So these are just some things that are very sort of immediate actions towards mitigating the issues, particularly the issues around the gas price, which can be something that can last. So essentially, that's a thing that needs to be taken care of from the perspective of the consensus layer of OriginTrail. And yeah, I believe I shouldn't go any further at this point. What I can say though is that already next week we can expect some new information coming from the Trace Alliance working group initiatives. So both on Starfleet and Polkadot. But until then, I'll stop my horses here.
Yeah. So just to add, the ambition here is to drastically decrease the cost of running the node and to reduce dependency on any chain, and in that way improve drastically and also bring in additional value into the OriginTrail ecosystem. So not only kind of more jobs, because the better efficiency, the bigger the market for the OriginTrail technologies, but essentially the bigger value will be retained very, very much soon in the OriginTrail ecosystem, and that's very good for anyone taking part in the network. One positive thing that Branimir has perhaps modestly is not pointing out is the Starfleet phase, which is also drastically accelerating the path towards the multi-chain state. And this essentially will translate into, faster, that you guys will, and everyone participating in the ecosystem will feel the developments much quicker than previously anticipated. So that's with respect to the gas. That's with respect to the dependency on different blockchains, and essentially opening up OriginTrail to global adoption, quicker adoption, and what we also kind of coined and sometimes called main dish, which is not that much a question of when it will come out, but very much a question of when and which things we need to sort out. And this is definitely one of the things that we need to sort out before the next wave will come after those, the introductory wave, so-called ingredients or entree waves. So this is this part, but then again, going back to the liquidity issues that we're experiencing in the market, because obviously Trace token is a utility token. It needs to be available for everyone participating in the system, both data holders and data creators, to have access to, essentially. And with this impediment that has occurred with the hack of the KuCoin exchange, we have recognized that we need to put a strategic focus towards finding and establishing additional markets for the Trace token, so that the technology will not only gain the kind of the technological and the resilience connected to the adoption, which we see is happening on a weekly, sometimes even daily basis. But what we need to recognize even firmly right now is the strategic importance of the liquidity for the ecosystem, and this way building the resiliency. This is where OriginTrail is not being only held by our team, we're not only relying on ourselves, but we see increasing kind of help and interest of helping the ecosystem in that regard from other stakeholders. Those two things, in addition to other developments, are showing us that the future is still bright. It's we are all shocked by what is happening with the KuCoin. We are again appealing to KuCoin to resolve all the issues in a way that they have also promised. We have again no reason to believe that they will not, and we do expect that they will resolve these issues that were caused by the hack, that were caused on their side in a speedy manner without causing additional damage to anyone in the ecosystem. So the future is bright. Things are happening. We're going into a positive direction. You're going to see the Starfleet chain coming out relatively soon. But the main point and the main thing here is to stay together, because what actually differentiates OriginTrail ecosystem is this togetherness. And we have always been able to establish alliances to cater to the communities. So the community that we're in dialogue right now here is one of the communities, but we're not alone here. We have business communities, we have Trace Alliance communities. So we should all be aware that we're part of something big and that we should stay together no matter what happens. This is a smaller turbulence. We do expect that in the future there's going to be turbulences, but we are certain that we can, without any doubt, become even stronger after each wave that comes towards us.
Yeah, fundamentals unchanged. I think we're stronger than ever, and proving that even through such turbulences is going to be really powerful. So yeah, I think we can slowly wrap it up here. So the resilience path has been outlined. It will be approached strategically as always, looking as to how to ensure long-term value for the ecosystem, and definitely staying true to the values that we've set out, and why all of you also felt connected to the OriginTrail ecosystem in the first place. So more of the positives in the future.